Hey, so I was scouring the internet, as one does, on YouTube, just under the feminism tag, because of course when you scour that and you look through the feminism tag, it is absolutely co-opted by people who are spreading and promulgating an anti-feminist narrative. A lot of the YouTube thumbnails are like, oh, feminist gets destroyed by logic and reason. So what I wanted to do as a person whose rhetoric is very much in line with trying to be scientific and trying to be as rational and logically minded as I possibly can, I want to watch one of these videos to see like what their mentality is. The purpose is to learn and understand why someone has a propensity to adopt a certain narrative and how does it benefit them, because that's typically why you see people leading in a certain ideological direction. It's because they personally benefit. So I found this one from Christine Grace Smith, and I thought we could just react to it and just have a conversation about all of her views and why she thinks that feminism is pernicious in particular, especially to women. It's interesting hearing it from a woman. She is young, incredibly young. She's kind of, to me, demonstrative of the tendency and the propensity of younger women to skew a little bit more to the right and to disavow feminism. It's a lot of those women for that generation who are adopting tradwifery and that kind of mentality, trying to elevate femininity again, to adopt and embrace the idea of femininity, which is totally fine. These women who are kind of trying to push the idea of traditional values and traditional femininity. There's nothing wrong with that. Just want to state that outright. The title of the video is I Discovered Feminists Want to Be Men, which is a very interesting claim. Hi, don't want to be a man. Equal to a man is not the same thing as wanting to be a man. I think, in my perspective, I want femininity itself to be equal to masculinity. So yeah, obviously I'm adopting certain feminine coded appearance, and I'm in line with society's traditional perspective of what a woman looks like and how a woman acts. So yeah, I'm not one to deviate entirely from that. I'm not disavowing femininity. I think femininity is beautiful. I think in general, though, that people embody a multitude, an amalgamation of both feminine and masculine traits. We are not all just solidly or entirely 100% feminine all the time or 100% masculine. I think those things are entirely arbitrary and societally determined anyway, to say like what is masculinity and what is femininity and who decides how the culture came about. So yeah, that's another point that I just want some of these individuals to kind of sit with and understand, that you have to be assiduous when it comes to why you feel a certain way. Like, society inculcates certain notions about what a woman and a man look like, what femininity and masculinity look like, but you have to be a little bit more intellectually curious. Where is this coming from? Why is pink associated with girls and, blue associated with boys? Like, just look into the historical and anthropological precedent for why these traits are defined as feminine and masculine to begin with. Why is emotion and the display of emotion considered to be intrinsically feminine, whereas rationality and coldness and being an arbiter of knowledge and truth, why is that associated with the masculine? And I think it's pernicious. A lot of people say, like, men are disavowing feminism because it's hurting them. No, not in the slightest. I support men because a lot of men do have traditionally feminine attributes, which is normal and is typical of a functioning human being. They have emotions, they have emotional needs and emotional wants that they cannot express because femininity is deemed to be lesser. So if they express traits that are seen to be lesser and incongruous with their masculine expression, then they're emasculated. Then they're deemed to be lesser, because that's what being feminine is inherently in our current society. So, sorry, long-winded tangent. Let's get on with it. Talking about Jennifer Meskey, Apparently she's a little bit older, so yeah, she wants to delve into this. Let's do it. Going to react to a little bit of her content. Fair. Yeah, it's really sad to me that young women are so reactionary to modern feminism. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I don't even know what modern feminism means, to be honest. What is the conceptualization of feminism, and why is it modern, and where is the delineation between the different waves of feminism? What constitutes modern feminism as opposed to previous feminism? Where did feminism cross the line to you to say that no, it's too much, that we have to pull it back a little bit, that we have to not exactly be as dominant or as feminist as we want to be? Where is that line? And when did we cross it? What year? I would like to know. Is it the year that we got access to our own banks, our own credit cards? Was it the year that marital was a thing that can actually be legislated? Was it the year that we had our rights taken away? Like, what? Our rights to our body taken away? Like, what? Where is the line? When did it happen? What does that mean to you? What does modern feminism mean to you? And do you disavow every aspect of feminism? Because a lot of people are like, oh, well, first wave is okay, but they don't realize that the culture has always hated feminism, and it has always said, oh, the prior movement was necessary. I get why people wanted the right to vote. That should have been enough, or like they were allowed to work outside of the home. That should have been enough. Like it continuously iterates on itself to the point where every new generation believes that feminism has gone too far and that we've achieved the state of equality that's sufficient. But we haven't. Okay, so let's go. Men are going their own way. I actually haven't heard of that movement, which, fine. If men are desirous of living that kind of lifestyle, if they want to be celibate, go ahead. Like, there are a lot of problems intrinsic to dating nowadays, and take it from me, it's hard. It's demonstratively difficult, so I get it. Like, I don't know the origination of why they want to go their own way, though. If the reasoning is, oh, modern feminists suck and women suck, like all women suck, if they're making broad generalizations about different generations of women, then that's not great. Because even the most conservative man can find a conservative woman, so it's not like it's impossible. Massive women taking over our culture. What does that mean? I wonder what... It is interesting to see what portion of the population actively defines themselves as feminist, and the thing is, within that label itself, there are a lot of different voices professing different things and different beliefs. There are different types of feminism. So it's quite interesting. There are, trans-exclusionary feminists. There are feminists that are intersectional. So it is quite interesting. I just don't know what voices she's talking about specifically, how vociferous we are and influencing the culture.
They say they want equality. If modern feminists really want equality, why are they not protesting in the streets for the changing the laws for alimony or child support or child custody?
Modern feminists really want equality. Why are we not protesting for changing the laws for alimony or child support? Okay, she posts some figures appertaining to, let's see, child support. I can't read that. Does she have it in the description? I would really like to read her source on that to ascertain the veracity. Father's rights and child support. Financially support their children. I have to go into that and actively read that, because from my findings and the research that I'll link below, my understanding is that the majority of child support cases are solved outside of court. So it's on the basis of the parents and the parental decisions, on the parental decisions, the ones that are inside the court. To my knowledge, they actually prefer men, and that men, when they actively fight for custody, are more likely to get it than women. And if women get the custody on the basis of being a woman alone, then yeah, that's demonstrative of sexism. Then that's something that feminism actively fights against, because we don't want to be perceived of as the better child rearer simply because we're women. We want the case to be judged on the basis of who we are and the capabilities we have to effectively raise a child. And that's genderless. So yeah, to my understanding, men's rights activists haven't talked about this, or they talk about it only with the express purpose of undermining female rights, and that's basically what she's doing. It's like, why don't you talk about this? It's a whataboutism, in a sense. It's like, we have innumerable issues of our own that we talk about and discuss and adumbrate for people to understand. That's a men's issue, firstly, so I would hold men's rights activists to account, that they don't just shout about feminism and how it's hurting them, but they actively take on a mantle of trying to support them. I think feminists have done way more for men than men's rights activists ever have, and part of that is the idea of alimony and child support. But again, I don't know if the data actually is in support of her conclusion. Okay.
But also, because women have become such crybabies that a man can't even speak to them, mentor them, help them, coach them, guide them, be in a room alone with them, for fear that they will say that there was sexual harassment.
They're crybabies. A man can't even speak to or mentor them. I was mentored by a man recently. Didn't feel the need to do anything or accuse him of anything. Yeah, there it is. There was sexual harassment. Okay, so you're talking about the Me Too movement, essentially. This old nugget. Women are not looking to accuse men without a basis. It's just that sexual harassment is so bloody prevalent. We're not interpreting nebulous actions or innocuous actions as being demonstrative of sexual harassment. And I think that's possibly where she's going next. Her next point, I did kind of skip through this a little bit, skim it. But it's the idea that sexual harassment is so demonstrably prevalent that on a basis, it's actually kind of a good thing that men should not be worried to be alone with a woman, because false accusations are incredibly rare and very limited. And even when a woman accuses a man, even if she's completely in the right to do it, a lot of times no action is taken, especially if the man is in a position of power or wields a position of power above her. There are cases where a woman has gone to HR to say, like, hey, this person, harassed me, and they were fired, and the man was just moved or promoted. Like, it's absurd that women's voices don't matter. So when we talk about sexual harassment, typically we're talking about legitimate cases of harassment, not accusations of it. So, it's a valid point. It's a valid criticism of male behavior, is that we are legitimately worried about it because it happens with such great frequency. It happened to me. It's happened to people I know. Entirely anecdotal, I'm cognizant of that, but it is disgustingly prevalent. So if a man has to take a slight amount of accountability for what the rest of men are doing and be cognizant that, something is going awry, I think it was Idris Elba that said, if you're worried about it, then you're part of the problem, and you have something to hide. If you're worried about being alone in a room with a woman and you're worried about accusations, bring another woman along with you in a room. I believe that they do that in doctors' offices now. When you're getting examined by a male doctor, they do bring in other doctors or nurses that are female in order to ensure that nothing goes on. What's the issue with that? I don't see why that's necessarily a negative thing when you have people like that. The guy who sexually assaulted all those girls on the gymnastics team, if he had a woman beside him when he was examining those girls, they wouldn't have been assaulted. So essentially, I don't see the negative ramifications for men. Yes, you could say, well, it's negative because they feel that they can't be trusted anymore. But I'm sorry. I'm sorry you feel that way, but facts over feelings. Hold men accountable then. Hold other men accountable for the negative damage that they're doing to the reputation of men, of good men. Right? Like, it is the fault of other men that this is a necessity. It's not the fault of women crying wolf. That's basically the point. And it's not an issue of sensitivity on the part of women. If they are being touched inappropriately, it's an issue with men.
Have you ever met a woman who bitches about being catcalled? Okay, so there was an article in this newspaper called The Independent here, and it's very left-wing. And there was an article, oh my God, about a woman who she lived downtown, and she was complaining that she couldn't, on a daily basis, she couldn't leave her house because men were catcalling her, saying rude things to her. She claimed that one guy followed her and said something about like wanting to fuck her, and then she was like, leave me alone. So he threw a pop at her. Bullshit. I have been out in this town for 16 years. I have never had anything thrown at me. I've only been treated respectfully.
So she's talking about catcalling, saying rude things. A guy followed her. Sounds pretty typical to me. I live in a city. Cool. I've never had anything like that happen to me. Congratulations. You are a rarity. So what makes you think that I'm going to give veracity to your profession that you haven't experienced it over the woman who said she did? It's both anecdotal. But if you look on TikTok, like, I literally was just scrolling through TikTok, there are cases of women running from men who are stalking them and harassing them. I've been stopped, I've been catcalled since I was a child, too. That's another thing that a lot of people remark on, that they get more catcalling when they're younger than they do when they're older, because it's absolutely disgusting. The worst I got was when I was 13 years old. So barely developed, even prepubescent girls are getting more harassment than adult women. So if you don't see it currently, well, fantastic, I'm glad. But, if you had a 12-year-old daughter, maybe things would be different. And I'm sorry to say that, but I've been catcalled as a child walking next to my mom. It happens. So it is a legitimate issue, and I don't understand why she's undermining the veracity of her profession, because it's true. Like, if you survey women, it happens, again, quite frequently. And catcalling isn't the most pernicious element of patriarchal society that we contend with. It's just, it's wrong and it sucks, but it's not the worst. We're not saying, like, catcalling men is just the worst thing about being a woman. It's not. Some can be kind of kind. I've been told that I was beautiful before by random men. It depends on who you are personally, whether or not you're willing to accept something as a compliment or not. And sure, some things can be very complimentary, and they could keep their distance and not shout it at you and not demean you or treat you like an object. They can just make a compliment. But, complimenting someone on their physical appearance, it's iffy. I would say it's on iffy grounds, because why would they do it to a woman, and why don't women then do it to men if it's on the basis of just liking how someone looks? If you want to say, I like the way you look, you're beautiful. Like, women don't necessarily do that to men, so why should men do it to women? If we want equality, we should look into that. Look into the rationale for why men feel like it's okay to do that, to call out to women and girls. Why do they feel like it's a good thing? Like, are they doing it because they legitimately want to tell a woman that she's pretty, that he likes the way that she looks? Or is it a tactic of intimidation to tell a child that he wants to tie her to a tree, and like the guy told me when I was 13? It's about demonstrative control and telling a person, I see you as a sexual object. That's objectification in its most base element. But it's more complicated than that. Some people do take it more positively.
There's been times at, like, construction sites where I've like walked by. I remember I was at the bank and I got on my car to go to the bank, and there was somebody on a scaffold, and he said something like, hey girl, or look good, or something.
Construction sites, yeah. I'm a civil engineer, so yeah, I've been on construction sites, and not fantastic places, I'll tell you that.
And it didn't bother. I wasn't offended. I didn't see it as harassment. I didn't fear for my safety. I didn't think it was out of line. I didn't think it was rude. I didn't feel victimized. I was like, hey, thanks.
So you're saying that it's a victimization issue, that it's a complex that we have, that we're desirous of being victimized and said, oh, oppression, and being triggered and offended. Like I said, harassment and catcalling isn't the most pernicious of things that women contend with. It's just a part of daily life. It's become so normalized that we're going to contend with these things, especially if we live in a larger city, that we're just like, ugh, this again. But again, it's decidedly more complicated, and a lot of even feminists and just women in general have differing perspectives when it comes to catcalling in general and what constitutes catcalling and when it's unwanted versus whether it's like a legitimate compliment. It's nebulous. It's decidedly more complicated. So to say all feminists would be like, why, like, ew, he said looking good and I feel oppressed because of it. Like, no. At worst, we're like, ugh, this again. You know, it's just demonstrative of a larger issue of the sexualization and objectification of women, that we exist for the sole purpose of being viewed as some kind of, like, sexy body for men to gawk at. So, you know, yeah, it sucks. It's demonstrative of a larger issue. But it's in and of itself, it's not gonna, like, ruin my day. Like, it depends on what's said. It depends how it's said. It depends on the circumstance. If you're alone in a subway station and a guy shouts at you that he wants to attack you, or like, hey baby, can I touch you, or something like more intimidating and threatening, yeah, you're going to respond to that vastly differently than you would a guy meters away up in a scaffold saying, you look pretty. There's a decided difference in the fact that you are incapable of perceiving that is kind of bothersome. Like, where's your intellectual curiosity? Like, how could you not be cognizant of the fact that it's not one size fits all for sexual harassment and catcalling? It's just, I don't know, people who just simplify matters like this just confuse me. I don't understand how you could go through life with such a simplistic rhetoric, how you could see complicated issues and just kind of precipitate one solid determination, like feminism equals bad. Like, okay, just because some people don't like getting catcalled. Like, great conclusion.
This is my theory. I'm gonna get back to it. I think that there's women out there who don't feel actually good about themselves. They don't feel attractive.
They don't feel worthy of the compliment, so it does like a whole thing in their brain.
They don't feel strong. They don't feel secure in their body. So they're fishing for compliments.
Okay, so yeah, there are people that do that. I would say they're typically rather young, and very insecure in themselves and who they are and their physical appearance, for fishing for compliments. Like, it happens online, men, women, everyone does it, you know. It's the nature of social media, you know. It can be done in practice too, and in physical form as well, but that's just it happens. I don't see how that has anything to do with feminism. The idea that some women have low self-esteem and are like, wow, I just got my hair done. Like, I like your hair. Like, what? What does that have to do with anything? Some people are like that. It's not a feminist issue. The idea of super, like, what?
I think they're telling people that so they
want the affirmation that, like, well, of course a guy is going to try and talk to you because you are actually pretty and you are actually, you know, worthy of compliments. That's what they want. Or, you know, they're just complete narcissistic sociopath and they just want further, like, showering with compliments.
They can prove to you that they're pretty, or their dress is nice, or they're so beautiful and they're so wonderful. You don't even know how hard it is to be out in the world. But it's not hard. It's not hard. Okay, I don't want to go off on that too much, but there's women like that. And because there are so many women like that who don't understand their value, possibly because they have little value, they haven't cultivated anything genuine in their intellect, in their heart, in their demeanor, in their appearance. They haven't cultivated anything, so they feel low, so they want to be higher than.
Okay, so worthy of compliments. Why are you bringing up sociopathy? That makes no sense. They want to be showered with compliments so they can prove what? prove that they're pretty. So, I don't, again, what's the point? It's not that hard to what? Yeah, there are women that don't understand the value, okay? Sure. It's a person thing. So they want to be higher than men. Okay, what is the logical correlation there? If you feel diminished and like you have very low self-esteem and self-worth, I've been there, I know this, I'm extraordinarily familiar with this. So what does that have to do with wanting to be seen as superior to men? If anything, I would think that they would seek male validation, seek external sources of affirmation to say that they're good, so they seek it from men, because men are deemed to be the arbiters of worth and value in society, and as women, our value is, here, especially if you're an older woman, like I, my value apparently is starting to diminish as I go through my 30s, so if we are losing our value, we seek it from men, and we seek it from them to imbue us and gift us with the value that we naturally feel is missing. So firstly, where did that lack of value come from? Why are we having low self-esteem? It could be innumerable different things or reasons, but it could be society itself. It could be patriarchy. Oh no. Sorry. It could be that you don't adhere to societal standards when it comes to beauty. So society could have a legitimate role in your negative perception of yourself. So, there's definitely veracity to that, especially if you see on social media how a beautiful woman looks. You're going to evaluate yourself and your own image on the basis of what you see that society has determined to be the ideal for feminine beauty. So, if you don't hold up to that. So yeah, there are a lot of patriarchal reasons why someone would not feel good about themselves, but I think that then translates to wanting to have value and trying to find that value from men. So again, what is the correlation between that and feminism? I don't see the logical progression there. If a woman has less value in herself, why is she more likely than to be a feminist, or what is the actual argument? That why would she see herself as superior because she doesn't have self-esteem or self-worth? I mean, I'm trying to think sociologically, and does this woman, what are her qualifications? Does she know psychology? Is she cognizant of that? Has she studied that? I would like to know specifically how she's able to determine that low self-esteem correlates then to feelings of superiority, to mask your own self-worth and lack of self-worth with an almost narcissistic kind of overcompensation. And so, yeah, I don't necessarily doubt that exists. If anything, I would say it also exists in men, too. The idea of narcissistic personality disorder, and the idea that you can be simultaneously hating yourself and over-loving yourself. It is a very contradictory intrinsically and very difficult subject, but I wouldn't take any kind of determination about that and tie it to feminism, and I wouldn't take that from this person. I'm sorry, I don't know your qualifications. I don't have the qualifications. I would just profess that it's a human thing, that it is not specific to women, and your theory is not specific to feminism in particular, that the feeling of superiority doesn't come from feeling that women are superior to men. It's the feeling that you personally are superior to someone else. It's an individual kind of perception of personal superiority and narcissism. That is my understanding of narcissism in general, narcissistic personality disorder, and how it manifests. It's just inherently very tenuous. Her argument is just, it's very, very weak. It's a weak and tenuous tie back to feminism, because she has not listed the tenets of feminism which are supported by her argument. They want to be higher than men. I'm not going to, men say they don't want to mentor a woman. Okay, so again, she's not further explaining. We're going back to the fear, again, the fear mongering for men. They were older and wealthy and white, so they were like the devil.
And they were older and they were wealthy and they were white, so they were like the devil. They weren't the devil. They're awesome. But he was saying, he being an owner of a big company, was saying to his friends at our annual Christmas party that he hosts and pays for, he's like, I'll go, but I only shake hands and I don't hug women anymore. And he said a lot of his female employees would be like, hey, Bob, let's say his name's Bob. Hey, Bob, and try to give him a hug. He's like, no. Like, oh, like, what the?
It's not worth the risk.
I shake hands, I don't hug women anymore. So what? Like, okay. Like, if that's a problem and has been in the past, don't do it. Like, you don't hug men, do you? So why would it be an issue to just not hug women and just shake hands? And if a woman goes in for a hug, you don't have to reciprocate and you don't have to hug back necessarily. Again, I don't see the problem with holding men accountable for the way that other men have legitimately used hugs in order to excuse groping. It's happened to me. So yeah, like, if you want to just be a little bit more careful, sure. Like, it's not, men are not living in fear. Like, how often is this legitimately an issue for a man? It is surmountable by doing some of the most basic things, like having a woman around, just shaking hands, not touching a woman. You know, like, when guys, like, especially a lot of older men, when they pass you, they put their hand on their back, like, oh, sorry, sweetie. Like, okay, do that to men. Like, it's just hold men accountable. It's not ruining their lives to not do something so incredibly basic. Like, what we contend with as women, death and assault and brutality. I'm sorry, but I have more of a right to fear that than men have a right to fear a woman saying, hey, that man hugged me inappropriately. I'm sorry. I don't think it's even remotely comparable. I can't even walk outside at night. I can't even wear certain things or wear certain dresses or show certain amounts of my skin. But I'm sorry you have to shake hands with a woman now.
And we were speaking about how difficult it is for men in this regard. And he was telling me how he held the door open for a lady. And she shouted at him. She bit his head off. You don't think I can hold a door open for myself? Da, 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 da. And he was kind of like, whoa.
Held the door open for someone. Okay, and she's pissed. It's rarity. And again, if you doubt the veracity of the woman walking and being thrown popsicles and being unable to walk because of harassment, I have the right to, doubt the veracity of the door opening story. But no, people do that. I'm not going to doubt that. It happens. Like, some people take it to a great extent and they take it very personally and they see it as being demonstrative of, like, what, you think I can't do this myself? Like, sure, some people are idiots, some people suck, like, it's fine. It's just the question that a lot of these types of people bring up is, would you do that for a man? And the thing is, it's like, yeah, I open the door for anyone. I open the door for people. Everyone and their mother opens doors for people. Like, it's not, that is a very, like, specific and rare case. Like, it's just a bland anecdote. Like, the women that get pissed off, like, whatever. Like, it barely happens. Again, it's like a non-issue. So he was like, oh, so you were upset for like a minute. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that big scary feminist offended you. I'm sorry that you're triggered. I can turn this around on you.
Like, sorry. And then it's like, we wonder why chivalry is seemingly dead. Because we killed it, girls. We did this. We did this to ourselves.
Chivalry is dead. Chivalry in one direction. Like, if you want to have reciprocal care and effort and being kind to people and having empathy, yeah, that should be reciprocal. Be a good person. That's not specific to any gender identity. Like, it just doesn't matter. It's just not a specific thing. I don't want men to do something specific for me just because they perceive me as a woman. Like, I don't care. Like, just be nice to people and do it on the basis of humanity deserves to be treated with kindness.
And he said that there was a girl who knocked on his door like a while ago and said, "Sir, can I please use your bathroom?" And he said, "No." Of course he said no. To have a girl in the house of an old white man, you are looking to be absolutely accused of something.
Kind of open and shut. Like, again, just if you want to have a woman be a witness, just stand by you and be like, okay, yeah, she went into the bathroom, remark that she came out alone, just fine. I don't want to mentor you. What is this mentorship? Like, I had a male mentor. What?
You know, so now they have to have more people in or video cameras. So it's all for the safety of women.
They have to have more people or video cameras for the safety of women. Okay? It's safety for everyone. Cameras in general are beneficial. That's why police have cameras. That's why you should get cameras for your car, like dash cams. Those are beneficial. It's for the safety of everyone. It's for being able to tell the truth of what happened in a circumstance and used as evidence should something arise. Like if you get into a car accident, I was watching something recently where these people were trying to do an insurance fraud, but the guy had a dash cam. So it's like, the more evidence that you have to ascertain the veracity to ascertain the actuality of what transpired, why is that a bad thing? Don't you want evidence? Don't you want facts and truth to be on your side? If it proves that a woman wasn't assaulted, then isn't that a good thing? It can help men prove their innocence.
Be on the side of men. Stand up to bully women. Don't be a bully woman yourself.
Be on the side of men. I am. Stand up to women. Depends what they did wrong. Don't be a bully. I'm not. Hello, today me. There's something I wanted to add. I know, more. I'm very much a yapper. But she does bring up a point, Jennifer does, about feminists being in need of security and how that's kind of demonstrative of a little bit of weakness. And she kind of brings up the idea of hypocrisy, that we want to be perceived of as strong and capable and empowered, while also saying, no, we need help, we need security and stuff like that, protect us from harassment, things like that. So I wanted to address, I don't think these things are intrinsically contradictory. I think there can be simultaneity to the idea that we want to be uplifted in a sense, and that we can demonstrate traits and attributes which are strong and strength, while simultaneously being desirous of having people be held accountable for their contraventions. So I think, empowerment comes because of us being repressed in certain ways. And it comes from surmounting certain difficulties that patriarchy has placed in front of us, that we are empowered because of patriarchy and in spite of it. For example, like with my own engineering degree, you could say that it's empowering and that it was strong for me to get that degree, same as a man, basically, but it demonstrated strength because I persisted despite being told by even professors that, the women, such as myself, were only there to find husbands. Things like that. Like, we persist in spite of all of these barricades to entry that are placed in our way. So strength isn't necessarily saying, we are 100% strong in every capability, in every case, in every situation. It's, demonstrating emotion and weakness, whether it be physical or emotional, is part of being human. It's just that we want to show strength. We want to show that we have the capability of showing emotional strength as well. It's part of being a complex individual and person. But at the same time, we still recognize that there are cases in which we need to be supported. And we also need security, and we want to be safe at the same time. You can be strong and still want safety. A man can still, want to go to a convenience store and not get shot in the face. He could still want security cameras in place as either a deterrent or a way of determining the identity after the fact. So yeah, we want preventative measures. I think that should be a very universal sort of thing to say, like, why can't we put in these measures to be preventative of certain things that are negative, that are against the law, to be frank? Why shouldn't we advocate for these things being in place? It's not demonstrative of weakness or meekness or saying, oh, I'm so, I need the protection of men and the law to save me because I'm a weak little woman. It's not capitulation to that kind of conceptualization of being a woman. It's not saying I'm weak because I need help, and I want to be safe. That is not weakness in a person. That is not weakness in a woman to say, these things happen to me and I don't have an effective means of combating it. So I want these measures to be put into place, to be preventative, to help me out, and to provide sufficient evidence so that when I demonstrate the strength to take these people and hold them accountable for what they've done, I have the evidence and I have the truth behind what I've done. So I don't think that those things are contradictory. I think we can be strong. We could say, I want to support women being able to combat certain issues that we have and to surmount it on the basis of our own fortitude. But at the same time, there are some things that that are just beyond what you can contend with. And in such cases, it's not a bad thing or demonstrative of weakness to say we need help. And I think that's something that men need to hear too. The idea of strength and weakness and what constitutes strength and weakness in a person. And that you don't have to be strong all the time. That certain elements that society has deemed to be weak or asking for help is not a bad thing. We're not saying that we have to be strong, like, masculine coded people all the time without admitting that we need help. And simultaneously, we don't have to say, I'm a meek little woman who needs help all the time. Like, we also can take responsibility for certain things and accountability for our own fault or our own contributions to certain things that go awry, but we still want there to be protections in place. And I don't think that that's wrong. I don't think it's contradictory. I don't think it's hypocritical. And I just wanted to add that because it just kind of bothered me. There may be some other things that I discussed, but okay, back to me and more talking.
I think you could learn a lot from The View because you are in a bubble right now.
It's always good and interesting to surround yourself with people who have a differing opinion to you because you might learn something. You're never going to learn anything if you're in an echo chamber.
You're in a bubble right now. So are you. Surround yourself with differing opinions. Sure. I mean, I'm watching you specifically, and I've grown up cognizant of what other people have thought of me as a result of me being a woman. If anyone needs to have a reality check and be educated as to what feminism actually entails, what modern feminism is, why we have these issues, and listen to our stories, I think it's anti-feminist. It's people that are against us because they don't, like, how many rape stories have you heard? How many assault stories have you heard? Have you listened to women talk? Do you want me to tell my story? Like, how many stories do you need to hear before you start to take it seriously and our issues seriously? Like, I don't understand. I've heard the anti-feminist perspective again and again and again. I've heard about men's rights. I know about that. To profess that I'm in my own bubble is ludicrous. Like, no. Like, being a feminist is a result of intellectual study and the cognizance that things are actually decidedly more complicated than anti-feminists are making them out to be. We are the ones who have clarity as to the actualities of our situation and reality. We are the ones with the grasp on reality. What is your reality? What are you living under? Like, I'm here to understand. It's just difficult for me. And fine, if you've never experienced sexism or any form of harassment in your life, fan-bloody-tastic. I'm legitimately happy that you haven't. Listen to some women who have. Be more open-minded. You're saying we're pushing people away? guess, fine. Some women, I guess, yeah, they push the sexual harassment thing. They profess sexual harassment when in reality the situation could be decidedly more nebulous and the interpretation of the action could be more innocuous. Fine. There's always going to be people that falsely mention or accuse other people. Fine, that's always going to exist, at least in the cases of it's decidedly, it's incomparable with respect to the likelihood percentages, that the fear of being falsely accused does not equate, at least with respect to frequency, the fear of it being done to you. So yeah, there are always going to be terrible people who are like, yeah, that was inappropriate, and other people are going to be like, what do you mean? Like, it was just a friendly gesture, or just like a joke or something like that. Yeah, there are people that are not going to be able to take that, and again, it's the complication. It's the idea that things are decidedly more complicated than you're making it out to be. It's not dichotomous. It's not like, yeah, he harassed her, or no, he didn't. It's like, it can be a little bit harder to ascertain what actually happened and where you fall on it. Sometimes as a feminist, you're like, I don't know, that was like kind of iffy, but at the same time, it's not that big of a deal. Like, we have the capability, the intellectual capability of assiduously analyzing every situation in its own context. That's the important part. Things are situational, they're contextual. So making these broad proclamations and generalizations about like, oh, feminists are just like, that was harassment, so you push men away because we are crying wolf all the time. Like, that we're gonna take even the slightest improper gesture as being demonstrative of like, I don't know, akin to assault. Like, no, we're not gonna do that. That is just such a terrible misconceptualization of feminism and what feminist women do. And I'm not gonna deny the reality that some women do that, and some women are a little bit more sensitive to that and are gonna be a little bit more vociferous when a line is crossed. But in comparison to the women that have sit down and shut up and taken it throughout history, throughout generations, it is again incomparable.
Do you know how good it is to be in a nurturing relationship? It's fantastic.
Society and family values, boy, they always like to profess that we're, destroying the family. We're not. Feminists can be married, feminists can have children. Feminism is actually in support of femininity and the adoption of femininity and against the devaluation of femininity by society.
You want to be worshipped. That is literally what has happened with modern feminism. Women have been put on a pedestal and are to be worshipped by men.
Women have been put on a pedestal. No. We're not putting anything on the pedestal. I don't think I'm better than any person or man. I think I have equal value, and that my value doesn't diminish as I age, as some men have professed, and that my value is not concomitant with the way that I look and my ability to sexually favor a man or please a man.
Because they won't protest for change because it's totally rigged in their favor, with everything to gain and with us men losing everything.
But what are men losing? What's that quote that when you're used to privilege, equality feels like oppression? Like, what do men want? What do anti-feminists want? What are you asking for us to do as a feminist? Like, what is the goal, ultimately? If the goal of feminism is the establishment of equality, to the point where I have control over my body, where I can go outside just like a man and I don't have the risk, and that if something happens to me, I don't get blamed for it, kids are actually taken seriously, that men that do these contraventions are legitimately convicted, and if they are convicted, they're given sufficient time and sufficient punishment. Oh gosh, I could go on and on. There are vastly better people to specifically elucidate the reasons why modern feminism exists, not only in this country, but around the world. Rachel Oates did a fantastic video on that. I could link a bunch of different videos for sources, but they're vastly more articulate than I could ever be. as to the reasons why I think we still need it and what our specific goals are. I don't want women to be cut from female genital mutilation. Like, I want women to be able to drive cars and dress in the way that they want to be able to. It's not that hard. It's not that hard to see what we want. I want equal representation by the law. I don't want men fighting over my rights and my body. I don't want men saying, we control you now. I don't want there to be no women in the room when the conversations appertaining to women arise. I want there to be women equally represented. It's a simple thing. I don't want violence. Because you know what? My sister's friend, she was murdered by her boyfriend when she tried to leave him in college. That's what we're fighting against. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that a man, this 27-year-old man, is upset. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the woman I knew who worked at ShopRite, whose daughter was chopped into pieces by men. I'm sorry. And that's so much more frequent than your little, he held the door open and she was mad at him. If you think those are even remotely comparable, then there's no breaching you. You're really lost. And you professing that we're lost. Wow. Sure. Believe what you want. But they lost their voices. I won't let men steal mine. It's a choice. What is a choice? Choice to be rude? Yeah. Sure. Angry feminists can be annoying. I get it. Again. Wait. You want to talk? Go for it. I'm not triggered. I hate that term. I do think this is the concept. I wouldn't say you, because I don't do that. I don't diminish people on the basis of who they are. I think you were very, very misled to your own detriment. Challenge you. I challenge you to think. I challenge you to be more open-minded and to think and to engage in discourse with feminists. I challenge you to read stories. Stories of murder, stories of abuse, stories of stalking, and how the police do nothing. How men do nothing to hold each other accountable. Have fun, because I've listened enough. And this is what I've learned. This is my reality. The reality for most women. And I'm happy that you didn't experience that. I'm almost happy that you can't see that.